After 12 years of silence, a lonely rancher makes a shocking proposal to a beaten mother of 3. The sun hung low over the sprawling Montana ranch, casting shadows that danced with the wind. Jack stood at the edge of his property, a solitary figure amidst the vastness, feeling every gust of winter air like a reminder of his past. 12 years of silence had built walls higher than he could climb. Once, he was the pride of the town, his name echoing in every corner for his steadfast integrity. But all that was washed away in the wake of his mistakes, leaving him to tend to the cattle and earth that felt more like a prison than a sanctuary. Meanwhile, Emily fought tooth and nail against a tide that threatened to drown her. Alone with 3 children, she juggled bills, meals, and bedtime stories, all with the grace of a seasoned performer hiding her exhaustion. Today, the weight of looming foreclosure pressed heavy on her chest as she struggled to mend a barbed wire fence on the outskirts of Jack's ranch. Sweat glistened on her forehead, but her spirit remained unyielding, the fierce light in her eyes unmistakable even in the chill of late afternoon. Jack noticed her then, just as he had always noticed the small things: how grass bent with the wind, how a storm cloud brewed over the mountains. Something stirred within him as he watched Emily's determination. He felt a connection, one that bridged their 2 isolated worlds like a fragile thread. With a heart that pounded louder than the thundering hooves of his cattle, he approached her. "Need a hand?" he called out, his voice breaking the silence like a crack of thunder. She looked up, surprise flooding her features. "I might not say no to that," she replied, wiping her hands on her overalls. Together, they twisted wire and pushed posts into the ground, each bearing the weight of their own struggles in the honest labor of their hands. "I've lost everything," Jack admitted softly, vulnerability lining the edges of his hardened heart. Emily listened, her eyes reflecting the pain of shared experiences as she shared her own story of loss and resilience. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As they finished the fence, a spark ignited. The air felt electric, charged with something new. Jack couldn't ignore the stirrings in his heart. He proposed an idea, a partnership, a sharing of burdens. She'd help with the ranch, and he'd help shield her from the crushing weight of the world, the whispers of judgment that came when lives unraveled. Just as life began to blossom anew for them both, a misunderstanding at her children's school erupted like a wildfire. Whispers turned to accusations, and soon their fragile bond was threatened by townsfolk eager to judge. Jack's past loomed like dark clouds overhead, ready to unleash a storm. As they faced the storm of public opinion, Jack and Emily stood at a crossroads. Could they survive the judgment together? Or would the ghosts of their pasts rip them apart? Hope flickered like a candle, fragile yet resilient, as they prepared to confront the world, not just for themselves, but for the families they had yet to become. The schoolyard was a battlefield, a sea of whispers and pointed fingers. As Emily led her children home that day, the weight of gossip settled heavily on her shoulders. The laughter of kids playing faded into the background, drowned by the tension that wrapped around her. She could feel the sharp stares from the other parents, their judgments like arrows aimed at her heart. "Mom, why do the kids at school say we're poor?" her youngest, Lily, asked, wide-eyed and confused. Every word pierced Emily's heart, and for a moment, all she could do was tether her thoughts to her daughter's innocent gaze. "Some people just don't understand," she murmured, ruffling Lily's hair in an attempt to mask the hurt. They walked on in silence, the cold air biting their cheeks, but it was nothing compared to the chill creeping in from the outside world. When they finally reached home, the small house felt like both a sanctuary and a prison. Emily busied herself in the kitchen, concocting a simple dinner while trying to block out the impending storm of emotions swirling around her. The scent of simmering beans barely quelled her racing thoughts. She knew she had to face it all, and she needed to talk to Jack. At his ranch, Jack stood by the cattle gate, a deep frown etched into his brow. He felt at the weight of the townsfolk's suspicion and their whispers that stretched like shadows on the edge of his property. No man should feel that kind of heat, but he couldn't let Emily shoulder the burden alone. She had been brave. She had reached out to him, and now he had to do the same. In the fading light, he made his way toward her home. The twilight painted his path with uncertainty, but he was determined. It was time for them to confront this together. He knocked at the door, and when Emily opened it, a rush of vulnerability fluttered between them, so raw, so real. Jack, her voice trembled, but relief flooded her as she stepped aside, inviting him in. "Hey," he said, his tone softening. He studied her, noticing how fatigue darkened the circles under her eyes. "I wanted to talk about, well, everything." They sat at the kitchen table, the smell of dinner tickling their senses, but all thoughts of food faded as they delved into the troubling events at school. Emily shared every bitter detail, her voice rising and falling like the waves upon the shore. Jack listened, pure empathy etched on his face, and as she spoke, he felt every word just as deeply within himself. "This isn't just about us, is it?" she replied, her eyes searching his. "They're using the past against you, against us, like we're too broken to even be together." It hung heavy between them, the unspoken fears pooling in the air. Yet Jack, feeling the warmth of newfound connection, leaned in closer. "That's why we have to show them. Not just the town but ourselves that we can overcome this." Emily studied his gaze, an ember of hope igniting within her. "But how?" she asked, feeling the weight of doubt creep in. He took a deep breath, grounding them both within the storm. "We'll stand together. They think they can tear us apart, but we'll be stronger together. Let us not give in to their fears. We'll show them who we truly are." The kitchen echoed with the pulse of possibility, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt a flicker of bravery spark within her. But that flame was fragile, and the road ahead shimmered with uncertainty. As they concocted a plan fueled by determination, a sense of unity buzzed in the air. But lurking in the shadows of that hope was the question that haunted both of them: what if their bold stand only drew more scrutiny? In that moment, the stakes grew higher, and as they prepared to face their demons, they realized they were preparing for more than just a defense against judgment. They were about to carve a path forward, one that would either bind them in strength or tear them apart. Would their bond stand firm under pressure, or would they find themselves unraveling at the seams as the storm approached? The next day dawned bright and cold, its chill seeping into Emily's bones as she prepared breakfast. The kids were still half asleep, nestled under blankets, their soft breaths filling the silence. She moved around the kitchen with a quiet urgency, her mind racing with everything that lay ahead. Jack had left her with a sense of purpose, but the fear still tightened around her heart like a vice. Would they stand together, or would they wilt under the pressure? As she flipped pancakes, the sizzle reminded her of the fire ignited in their conversation, the commitment they made to fight back against the whispers. She had to believe in that flame, for her kids and for Jack. "Mom, are we having pancakes?" Lily's voice pulled her back to the moment, sweet and innocent, preventing the darkness from hijacking her thoughts. "Of course. Just a minute." Emily smiled at her daughter but couldn't shake the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. While she flipped the last pancake, a thought pricked at her mind like a thorn. What would happen when they confronted the town? Would the old wounds, long buried, spring back to life? After breakfast, Emily gathered the kids. They needed to talk, not just about school but about what was happening to their family. "Kids," she said, her hands clasped tightly around the table, "we need to be brave. There are some tough things happening, but we're going to face them together. I promise." As they listened, her voice steady, yet tinged with vulnerability. She saw the uncertainty in their young faces. "But we have each other, and we have friends who will help us." "What about Jack?" Ben asked, his tone curious. "He said he's gonna help us too, right?" "Yes, he will," she affirmed, feeling a swell of warmth at the thought of Jack standing behind them. "He's been through a lot, just like we have. We'll get through this together." The kids nodded, some of the tension easing from their expressions. Still, Emily knew that hurtful words had a way of lingering long after they were spoken. She had to prepare them for the onslaught that was sure to come. In the following days, Emily and Jack began organizing a community gathering at the ranch. It was ambitious, maybe crazy, but it felt like the first step. They would invite friends and neighbors to share their stories, to create a space for understanding. It was about showing everyone that they couldn't be defined by their past or their current situation. But with every invitation sent, Emily wrestled with a growing dread. What if this blew up in their faces? What if the town turned on them, leaving their children exposed to even more ridicule? Would Jack still be by her side, or would he turn back when the pressure got too intense? As the day of the gathering approached, Emily found herself pacing the small ranch living room, her thoughts spiraling. The kids were at school, leaving the house silent but for the tick-tock of the clock on the wall. The noise only exaggerated her anxiety. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message from Jack lit up the screen. "You ready for this?" A wave of warmth washed over her. She typed back, "As ready as I'll ever be. I think." But just as she hit send, another message popped in a group text from the parents' chat. Emily felt her heart hesitate in her chest. The words written there triumphantly tore at her like a jagged knife. "We heard about the gathering at Jack's ranch. Imagine the embarrassment when it all goes wrong." She squeezed the phone tightly, her pulse pounding in her ears. What was she getting herself into? The moment of truth was approaching, and as much as she wanted to run away, her heart whispered the truth: it was time to stand up. But when the curtain lifted on their stand, would they find acceptance or scorn? And amidst her swirling thoughts, the doorbell rang, pulling her back from the edge. Who could it be now? She took a deep breath and went to answer it, already anticipating a challenge. Would this be the moment that started their fight against the storm? Emily opened the door, her heart racing. The chill from outside swept in, reminding her that change didn't come easy. Standing on her porch was an unexpected visitor, old Mr. Thompson, the town's former sheriff. His presence loomed larger than life, his weathered face etched with years of stories and experiences. In his hands, he held a sturdy loaf of homemade bread, a gesture that seemed almost trivial against the backdrop of their current struggles. "Hello there, Emily," he said, his voice gravelly but warm. "Thought I'd drop off some bread. Figured you might need it with all that's going on." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," she replied, her surprise melting into gratitude. He had always been kind, but his timing felt oddly nostalgic, as if he could sense the storm brewing inside her. "Can I come in for a minute?" he asked, his tone serious now. Emily hesitated, but there was something comforting about him. She stepped aside, letting him enter. As they sat across from each other at the kitchen table, she felt his gaze search her face, as if trying to decipher unspoken words. "I hear about that gathering you're planning," he said slowly. The warmth of the bread on the table contrasted sharply with the cold dread spreading in her chest. "Yes, it's important," Emily replied, steadying herself. "A way to find our voice together." He nodded slowly, but skepticism clouded his features. "You know the history of our town, Emily. People have long memories. They're not always kind." His words hit like a cold wind, crackling and sharp, but she couldn't back down now. Not after starting this journey. "I know," she said, taking a deep breath. "But we can't let fear stop us. We need to show that we're stronger than the past. Strength is one thing, but trust takes time." He leaned closer, his voice lowering. Your children, they deserve better than what this town is willing to give. The ache behind her eyes threatened to spill over. I just want them to feel safe, to feel like they belong, she whispered. Mr. Thompson's gaze softened. You're not alone in this fight. But you've got to be ready for the backlash. People like to protect their own, even if it means murky waters for others. Emily's heart leapt at his words. There was still hope in the universe, even in the face of possible rejection. What are you saying? If you want your gathering to succeed, consider bringing together others who've endured similar struggles. Save them from loneliness and maybe let me help. She was taken aback, staring into his earnest eyes. Could they really change things? Would they have the strength to face down the town's fears together? I don't want my kids to be hurt anymore, Mr. Thompson, she confessed, feeling the weight of her vulnerabilities in the room. I can't let them face those storms alone, not now. He placed a hand on the table, solid and grounding. Then stand with me, Emily. We'll rewrite this story together. They sat in silence for a moment, the air charged with unspoken possibilities. With that moment came an urgency, a realization that this could just be the bridge to a community they needed. But the looming question was still there, the shadow of uncertainty thick and heavy. Would others stand with them? Could they muster the courage to change the narrative, or would the storm prove too fierce? Just then, the kids' laughter erupted outside as they returned from school, their voices light and oblivious to the heaviness inside. Mom! We're home! Lily called out, her joy cutting through Emily's doubts like a ray of sunshine. As she stood and moved toward the door, Mr. Thompson's voice stopped her. Remember, challenges test our resolve. Be ready for what comes. With that, Emily nodded, knowing deep down that facing the truth was the only way now. But as she opened the door to greet the kids, her heart pounded with the weight of what was to come. Would they be ready for the storm that awaited them? The path was uncertain, and the tension was palpable. Would they emerge stronger, or would they crumble under the weight of their past? Lily and Jack rushed into the house, their backpacks bouncing with each step, followed closely by Max, who looked like he might burst from excitement. Emily felt a wave of warmth wash over her at the sight of her children, their carefree laughter brightening the dimness that had settled in her heart just moments before. Did you know Mrs. Harper is letting us plant flowers in the community garden? Lily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. She said we can pick whatever we want. Can we plant sunflowers? Jack piped up, his enthusiasm contagious. They're the biggest. Emily smiled, feeling her spirits lift. Watching their joy made her momentarily forget the weight of the world outside. She knelt down to their level, brushing a stray strand of hair behind Max's ear. Sunflowers sound perfect, sweetheart. We'll make that garden the most beautiful one in town. As she encouraged the kids to share their day, Mr. Thompson observed quietly from the kitchen table. He took in the warm glow of the family's interaction, but the concern etched on his face remained. Is there anything else exciting? Emily prompted, trying to keep the conversation light. Oh. We played a game. Jack jumped in. And I won. Yeah, but only because you cheated. Lily giggled, shoving him playfully. Did not. Jack shot back, laughter filling the kitchen. Mr. Thompson smiled faintly at their banter. Emily could feel him wanting to say more, to address things that swirled beneath the surface. Kids, she finally said, why don't you go wash up for dinner? We can have that bread Mr. Thompson brought with our soup. Once the kids raced out of the room, the mood shifted. Emily turned to Mr. Thompson, who looked even more serious now. Thank you for the bread and for being here, she said quietly. I know you've seen this town at its worst and its best. I want to make a change, but his gaze held hers. You have it in you to do this, Emily. You just need the right people beside you. As she contemplated his words, uncertainty crept back in. What if no one shows up? What if they reject us? Then you keep showing up. That's how you build a bridge. You never know who is hurting until you ask. You'll be surprised at the strength of the human heart. That made sense. But doubts lingered. The memories of laughter and kindness mixed with memories of cold shoulders and hushed whispers nipped at her resolve. Mr. Thompson, what if my kids? Her voice trailed off, the fear lying heavy in the air. Protecting them from the truth won't keep them safe. It'll only foster more silence. Just then, there was a loud crash from the other room, followed by the unmistakable sound of Max wailing. "Mom!" Lily shouted, panic rising in her voice. Emily's heart raced as they sprinted into the adjoining room. There Max stood, surrounded by spilled toys, his little face streaked with tears and confusion. "I just wanted to play." "Oh, buddy." Emily rushed to him, her instinct a mix of comfort and concern. "It's okay. Let us clean this up together." As she knelt to help him, glancing back at Mr. Thompson, she felt the weight of her choices and the urgency of the moment. "Sometimes, the strongest bonds come from the toughest times," he said softly, standing in the doorframe, watching her with a mix of hope and fear. As they picked up the scattered toys, Emily's thoughts spun like autumn leaves in a brisk wind. There was fear, yes, but also a flicker of something new. Would she find that strength? Would they find their voices, and bring others along? Would the gathering forge a connection amidst this dissonance? Yet a thought niggled at her. If this storm were to come, was she truly ready for its aftermath? Max looked up at her, his tear-streaked face a reminder of innocence and hope. "Can we make a big surprise for Dad when he gets home?" Emily smiled through the uncertainty, her heart swelling at both his trust and the prospect of their efforts to change things. The tenuous thread of courage began to weave through her, binding her to a promise she wanted to keep. "Yes, we can. We'll make it a surprise." But as the door swung open to the outside world, Emily's lingering worry resurfaced. Would they really rise to face the storm ahead, or would the shadows of their past prove too daunting? The inviting warmth of the house felt like a fragile barrier, just waiting to be tested. What awaited outside? Would they be brave enough to step into the unknown? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow through the kitchen window, the tension of earlier moments began to settle into a comforting routine. Emily and the kids worked together, their laughter ringing out as they cleaned up the mess in a flurry of movement and joy. Lily raced to grab a dustpan, while Jack looked for more toys that were somehow still scattered across the floor. Max, still wiping his eyes, joined in with slightly wobbly enthusiasm. "I can help with this," he declared, lifting a stuffed dinosaur high, its limbs flailing comically. Soon, the chaos transformed into a game. The kids turned cleaning into a race, counting how many items they could pick up in a minute. Emily watched them, her heart swelling with pride. Generosity and playfulness sparked from their innocent hearts, and it reminded her of their potential. "Okay, wait. Time's up," Emily said, pretending to hold an imaginary stopwatch. "And the winner is," she paused for dramatic effect, "everyone. Because you all helped." Cheers erupted, mixed with giggles. It filled her with warmth, but it couldn't drown out the nagging question lingering in her mind. What if the world outside were never so forgiving? "Mom? Can we have a snack now?" Jack asked, brushing his hair out of his face, his eyes shining with energy. "Sure, how about some apples and peanut butter?" she suggested, moving to the cupboard. Suddenly, the phone rang, slicing through the laughter like a knife. Emily's heart dropped. A part of her wanted to let it go to voicemail, to remain in this bubble of comfort. But another part urged her to answer, the uncertainty simmering just beneath the surface. "Hold on, guys," she said, reaching for the phone on the counter. As she picked it up, her hands trembled slightly. "Hello? Emily?" The voice on the other end was familiar yet distant. It was Sarah Walker, the town mayor, reaching out after years of little contact. "Sarah. It's been a while," she responded, forcing a smile into her voice. "I know it has. I've heard you're looking to make some changes in town," Sarah continued, her tone serious. "I wanted to discuss some plans we're considering at the community center. It might relate to your garden project." Emily's heart raced. The thought of connecting with others about her ideas was both thrilling and terrifying. "That sounds great. I'm interested in helping however I can," she replied, realizing the growing determination in her voice. "Wonderful. Can we set a time to meet?" As she scribbled down details, excitement wove its way through her previous fears. These connections could lead to something real, something strong. After hanging up, she turned back to the kids. "Guess what? Mom's going to speak with the mayor about our garden." Lily clapped her hands, and even Max seemed to bounce a little as he held onto her leg. "Can we help?" he asked, his little face brightening. "Of course. We're all in this together," she assured them, her voice filled with newfound excitement. As she pulled them into a quick hug, Emily felt a surge of hope. Maybe they had the power to turn the tides, to heal the rifts that had plagued not just their family but their whole community. But just as quickly as brightness filled the room, a shadow crossed her mind. Would they be able to face opposition? Would there be hurdles that seemed insurmountable? In those moments of joy, she couldn't shake the fear looming over her. The doubt that tickled the back of her mind whispered ominously, would the past put them at a disadvantage? Later that evening, as the kids settled down for bed, Emily sat by their side. "Tomorrow, we will take that first brave step," she whispered, brushing her fingers over their foreheads. But in her heart, a new question began to brew. What if the very act of stepping out opened old wounds she and her family weren't ready to confront? As she turned off the light, the children's steady breathing filled the dark room, bringing a fragile peace. Yet, outside the walls of their loving home, she could almost feel the weight of expectation. Tomorrow held promise, yet it also posed a challenge. Would they emerge stronger, or would the shadows of the past follow them into the light? The morning sunlight spilled into the kitchen, casting bright patches on the floor. Emily felt a mixture of anxiety and anticipation as she prepared breakfast. The kids were already buzzing with excitement. Lily helped set the table, a determined look on her face, while Jack insisted on making juice, spilling more than he poured. Max sat at the table, anxiously waiting, clutching his dinosaur like it was a lifeline. Okay, just be careful," Emily called, smiling despite herself. The sight of them wrestling with simple tasks filled her with warmth, a gentle reminder of the joys that could still be found in mundane moments. Yet, her mind kept drifting back to the conversation with Sarah. Today was the day, and she felt the stakes rising higher than she'd anticipated. After breakfast, Emily gathered the kids together. "All right, everyone, today we're going to visit the community center," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Do we have to?" Jack whined, his playful demeanor fading at the mention of the unknown. "It'll be fun. We're going to show them our garden ideas," Emily replied, infusing her tone with enthusiasm. She kneeling to meet their eyes. "And remember, you're a big part of this." They huddled together in a moment of solidarity, and Emily felt a boost of courage from their innocent trust in her. Once they arrived at the community center, the vibrant colors and chatter welcomed them. The walls were adorned with past projects, their creativity spilling out in every direction. Emily's heart raced. She could almost touch her dreams as the children took in their surroundings. Just then, she spotted Sarah, who waved her over. "Great to see you, Emily. I'm glad you could make it," she said, her excitement palpable. "Thanks for having us," Emily replied, her nerves bubbling beneath the surface. They moved into the meeting room, a spacious area filled with tables and chairs arranged in a circle. The smell of coffee wafted through, calming Emily, making her feel more at home. As group presentations began, Emily's attention wandered to the images of past projects on the walls. Each filled with life: the laughter of children at summer camps, the smiling seniors at art classes, community events that had forged connections. She envisioned her garden as part of that, a bright spot for everyone. When it was finally her turn, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I'm excited to share our garden project," she began, her voice stronger than she felt. "I believe it could be a place for the community to come together, to learn, and, most importantly, to connect again." As she spoke, she could see the interest reflecting back from the faces in the room, but there was a lingering tension. She noticed a few skeptical expressions, and doubt crept back in. What if they didn't see the worth in it? Suddenly, a voice piped up from the back. "But what if no one shows up?" A man with crossed arms challenged her. The room fell silent, the weight of his words crashing down. Emily opened her mouth to answer, but nothing came out at first. The fear she had suppressed washed over her like icy water. She glanced at her kids, who now stood behind her, eyes wide. What would they think if she faltered here? Taking a deep breath, she thought about the love in their home, the laughter they shared. "If no one shows up, we'll show up for ourselves," she replied, fighting to sound confident. "There's always hope when we take that first step forward, and isn't that worth it?" The tension hung thick in the air. Would anyone respond? She needed an ally, someone to back her up. Just then, an older woman raised her hand. "I think it's a wonderful idea, Emily," she said with a warm smile. "We need more places like that." A murmur of agreement spread through the circle, and Emily's heart lifted, even if just a little. But as the conversations continued, her joy was overshadowed by the realization that not everyone was convinced. What if the doubts they voiced echoed fears from the past? The meeting went on, but with each word spoken, Emily struggled with the weight of resistance as it wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. As she walked out of the community center, her heart was racing. The kids ran ahead, but she felt the uncertainty clinging to her, shadowing everything they had just built. Could she lead them into the light when darkness still loomed so close? Tomorrow, she knew, would test not just her resolve, but the very heart of what they were starting to build. Would they rise together, or would this be just another fleeting moment lost to the shadows of their past? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting warm hues over the community center parking lot. Emily's hands trembled slightly, not from the chill in the air, but from the weight of her thoughts. The kids were a short distance ahead, still buzzing with excitement, but worry settled in her chest like a stone. They had made a small impact tonight, yet doubt still lingered. "Do you think they'll really help us?" Max's soft voice broke through her reverie. Emily bent down to his level. His wide blue eyes mirrored her uncertainty, but she couldn't show fear. "They might need some time to think it over," she replied, forcing a smile. "But every garden starts with a single seed." As they got into the car, tension filled the small space. Jack fiddled with the radio, flipping through the stations without care. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting warm hues over the community center parking lot. Emily's hands trembled slightly, not from the chill in the air, but from the weight of her thoughts. Them or deepen their divide? Her heart raced again, tightening like a fist. Tomorrow held the promise of change, but what kind? Would this be a moment to seize or a mistake to regret? Emily's heart drummed in her chest, each beat echoing a mix of hope and dread. The rancher stood there, the fading light casting long shadows that stretched between them like the years that had passed. "What do you mean, help? What do you know about our project?" she asked, trying to assert control over her voice, but it came out a bit sharper than intended. He shifted his weight, glancing briefly at the kids who were lost in their own world, oblivious to the tension hanging in the air. "I've seen how hard you've been fighting for this garden," he said, sincerity lining his voice. "And I know you need more than just roots in the ground. You need support. People to believe in you. What do you get out of this? Emily replied, crossing her arms defensively. She took a step back, feeling the urge to protect herself and her children from whatever he had in mind. You walked away from us. Why would you want to come back now? His eyes softened at her words, and for a moment, she saw the man beneath the loner exterior, someone weighed down by choices made long ago. I can't change the past, he admitted, a shadow flickering across his face. But I want to help you plant more than just flowers. I can help bring people together, their time, their support. We can make this garden something special. Bigger than just your family. It can become a community. A rush of conflicting emotions surged within Emily. His offer dangled before her like a lifeline, yet it felt like a lure woven from old trust frayed by neglect. Why would they listen to you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, uncertainty creeping back into her heart. It was easier to doubt than hope, easier to shield herself from disappointment. I used to be part of this community, Emily. His voice was layered with regret. Like you, I want to find my place again. I can talk to them, organize meetings. I know what it's like to have no one on your side. He gestured toward the kids, still busily discussing how they envisioned their garden. It's about more than just dirt and seeds. It's about creating a space where they can grow, where we can grow. She glanced at the kids. Their laughter rang like a bell, a sound that filled Emily with bittersweet warmth. They were so innocent to the world's harshness. They deserved more than she had been able to give, more than she feared the rancher could promise. Talk to me in the morning, she muttered, her decision scarcely settled. I need to think about it. Tonight? He pressed. I can tell you my plan now, and you can talk to the kids about it. Emily shook her head, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on her. I can't just decide like that. This isn't only about me, it's about my kids. They've been through enough. Then give me a chance to show you I can help. All I'm asking for is a moment of your time. In that moment, time stretched around them, filled with heavy silence. The fading light wrapped around Emily's heart as if lacing her with a choice that would shift the very foundation of her world. As she surveyed the rancher, the doubt clung tightly. Could he really be trusted? But could she afford to turn down help just because of past heartache? Okay, she finally said, her voice trembling. Let us talk in the morning. He nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his features. I'm here for you. As the rancher turned to leave, the sun fully disappeared, and the backyard plunged into a hushed stillness. Emily's heart raced. What would tomorrow bring? Would she unlock doors to help, or would she close them tighter against an old pain? She pulled the kids close, feeling the weight of that choice silently spinning in her mind. Let us get inside, okay? She urged, a mix of determination and fear knotting in her stomach. What awaited them in the light of day? Would tomorrow bring the hope she so desperately wanted, or just further heartache? The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the breakfast table where Emily was already strategizing her day. She paced, juggling the kids' needs with her growing excitement over the upcoming conversation with Jack. Her heart felt like a drum, thumping with anticipation, but beneath that rhythm lay a persistent undercurrent of fear. Mom! Can I have some juice? Max's tiny voice broke through her haze. Of course, buddy. She poured a cup and glanced over at the kids, their innocence and energy a stark contrast to the turmoil that swirled within her. As they ate and planned their day, her thoughts danced between what the rancher had promised and her own desires for independence and security. Could she truly trust him again? But a part of her, the part that longed for community, felt a flicker of hope igniting. After breakfast, she gathered the kids and took a deep breath. All right, team, today's an important day. We're going to meet Jack. He wants to help our garden project, and I think it could be a big step for all of us. Lily's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Will we get to plant flowers today, too? Maybe. Emily smiled, feeling a wave of warmth at her children's enthusiasm. This is our chance to build something beautiful together. They arrived at the ranch, the air thick with the smells of rich earth and wildflowers, a contrast to the uncertainty resting on Emily's shoulders. As she stepped out of the car, that tension tightened like a vice around her heart. Jack stood waiting, a silhouette framed against the morning light. He looked almost earnest, his weathered hands resting on his hips, a hint of hope sparking in his eyes. But just as quickly, that trust wavered. "Good morning, Emily," he greeted warmly. "Thanks for coming." She nodded, her heart racing. "Okay, let us talk." They walked toward a shady spot by the barn, the kids trailing behind them, busy plotting their designs for the garden. But as they settled in, the weight of the conversation crystallized in the air. "I want to help you," Jack said, his voice steady. "I've seen the potential in your project, and I want to bring the community back together. We can really build something here together." Emily met his gaze, searching for any sign of deceit, but all she found was sincerity. "How do you plan to get the town involved? They've been silent for so long." "I'm ready to talk to them," he replied, leaning closer, conviction lining his features. "I know people who trust me. We can start with a community meeting at my ranch. I'll share my journey, and maybe, just maybe, the townsfolk will see the truth in yours." Her heart fluttered at the prospect of a gathering where they could all connect, a chance to break down those walls of fear and judgment. Yet, the risks loomed large. What if they turn against us? What if they blame you for your past? Jack sighed, the corners of his mouth twitching down. "I've already lost their respect. But the past doesn't define us, does it? It's about how we move forward." Emily let his words settle. Perhaps their paths didn't need to be dictated by old wounds, perhaps this was their chance for a fresh start, a new chapter in both their lives. "Okay," she said slowly, feeling a grounding warmth spiral through her. "Let us arrange that meeting." Just then, the kids' excitement bubbled over. "Can we help with the meeting?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Yes. You two can help decorate and maybe propose some ideas for the garden," Emily replied, feeling the energy shift. Somehow, discussing the meeting combined their dreams, their voices rising above the worries that had clouded the past. Jack smiled, his expression shifting from nervousness to hope. "You have a beautiful family, Emily. Together, we really can turn things around." As the sun climbed higher in the sky, shedding light on the path before them, Emily felt her heart swell. Together, they had the chance to carve out a new beginning not just for themselves, but for their community as well. That afternoon, Jack and Emily returned home, the air buzzing with vitality and anticipation. Plans were set in motion, posters were designed, and they even created a social media page to spread the word. Every laugh shared with the kids felt like a promise, a chance to fight against what gripped them in fear. As the days passed and the community gathering approached, Emily found her doubts beginning to fade, replaced with hopeful anticipation. They hung balloons and streamers adorned with bright flowers, their garden blossoming even in preparatory stages. But the night before the meeting, doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. Emily knelt beside the kids' beds, lingering in their warmth, soaking in their serenity as they slept. "Tomorrow," she whispered, her heart heavy, "we'll step into the unknown together." The next day dawned bright and clear, the air crisp with possibility. Emily stood at the edge of the ranch, feeling the energy swirl around her. Would they be accepted? Would the community stand with them? She steeled herself against the uncertainty, focused on the bond formed with Jack, and the love that swirled around her family. And as neighbors began to filter in, smiles bright and encouragement trailing behind them, hope ignited. Families previously fractured began to reconnect. Children dashed around, laughing and helping to plant the flowers they had dreamed of, each blossom resonating with promise. That gathering became more than just a meeting, it transformed into a celebration, a festival of growth, healing, and unity. Emily's heart swelled as laughter echoed through the air, weaving strength into the fabric of their lives. With each spoken word, hardships softened, and connections blossomed. Jack's storytelling about finding hope in the wake of loss resonated deeply, and his courage sparked something beautiful in the others. As Emily watched the hesitant smiles transform into genuine connection, she felt the tapestry of belonging weave around them. A sense of belonging, brought forth by vulnerability, love, and strength. It became clear that they wouldn't just survive, they would thrive together. When the night fell, the children were nestled against Emily, their eyes glowing bright with happiness, the stars twinkling like their dreams set free. Jack stood close by, sharing in that radiant moment, both of them surrounded by the support of their community. "Thank you for trusting me," Jack whispered to Emily, their hearts echoing a shared journey. She smiled, tears of joy welling in her eyes. "Together, we changed our story. And we'll keep doing it, one garden at a time." Together, they discovered the beauty of rebuilding. Amidst the blooms of flowers and relationships, they found a family forged in fortitude and reconnection, a family ready to face tomorrow, not with fear, but with hope. And in that moment, Emily knew they would continue to fight against any storms that dared to come their way. This was just the beginning of their journey, heartfelt, genuine, and transformative. Now, dear friends, don't let this story end here. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you won't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will fill your heart with hope. Like this video now to feed that algorithm and help us reach more souls who need to hear these tales of inspiration. Tell us your reactions and feelings about this breathtaking transformation in the comments below. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey, because together, we can spread hope further than ever. Don't wait not even one more second to support our channel. Your action counts.